makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode, I will be having a conversation with Laurie Parfitt. She is a fractional CMO in the cannabis space and the founder and CEO of LKP Impact Consulting. Good morning, Laurie. Thank you for taking the time to have this conversation with me. Can you tell us more about your background and how you got into the world of marketing and brand building?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Nagila. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. So, I'm a fractional CMO in the cannabis space, and my background's a little bit different than your traditional CMO. So I actually started my career in finance, and I ended up switching over to sales and operations and then into marketing. And marketing is truly my passion. And so I transitioned over to marketing probably back in 2012. And I was really lucky. I ended up with a wonderful mentor who gave me the opportunity to learn and go from being very analytical to finding my creative side. And so I spent 17 years in consumer packaged goods, working for companies like Kraft Foods, Beam Suntory, Topco Associates, Miscon America, which has Ragu and Bertolli pasta sauces. And then I entered the cannabis space back in 2019 when that same mentor became the president of a multi-state operator and brought me on to head up all of marketing, which was my dream job. And I had the opportunity to work with a wonderful team and really find my passion in life, which was the cannabis space. And so, my whole career, I had been very much, data driven. It's all about the P&L and profitability. And when I came into the cannabis space, I realized that I was not just part of an industry, I was part of a movement. And being part of a movement meant that I had the opportunity to really change how things operated and influence how things operated. And that to me was really inspiring and engaging. And also being able to help people live better lives. I had never been cause-based before. And joining this industry, you're really helping people take their own healthcare back and manage their own wellness their way. And being able to make a difference in people's lives was really impactful for me.
Wow, this is interesting. The cannabis, I never really have a conversation with anyone when it comes to cannabis. So can you give us a little bit more information? Because a lot of people have the idea that when they hear about cannabis, it's like, okay, it's a drug, it can hurt somebody, it's not good for you, it's illegal, you shouldn't be doing it. So Can you give a little bit more information into that to help people understand that it's not illegal in some state, and that, from what I know, and also it's not really bad for you. It's depending on how you're taking it.
Yeah, well, so anything can be bad for you. Anything. If you eat too much, that could be bad for you. If you drink too much, that could be bad for you. Anything done to excess can be bad for you. Yes. The cannabis industry, I grew up I'm dating myself here, but back in the 1980s, where, we had the Nancy Reagan war on drugs. And I was part of the DARE program growing up, which was all about say no to drugs. Drugs are bad. And cannabis, which at the time was called marijuana, was considered to be, at the forefront of that movement. And, it all kind of goes back, way before the Reagan era. Nixon was really very much against cannabis as well. He actually commissioned an entire study on it and shelved it because the findings came back that cannabis was actually something that we should promote, and it's actually good for people. The cannabis space has been highly stigmatized for many, many years. And it's difficult for those of us who are Gen X or who are my parents' age, who are baby boomers, to really kind of wrap their heads around the fact that now cannabis is legal in many, many states. for medical purposes and also for recreational purposes, or what we call adult use. And so, as I said, anything can be done to excess, and anything done in excess can be bad for you. The thing about cannabis is that it has so many medicinal properties to it, and it's really just a plant that comes out of the ground.
Yes.
And I mean, there are so many other things out there that are legal and that are bad for you. And cannabis has the ability to really change the landscape of healthcare going forward. And so does it work for everybody? No. And does it affect everybody the same way? No. What's really interesting about cannabis and makes it different than something like alcohol is that if you look at alcohol, if two people are about the same height, same weight, they're not heavy users of alcohol, they're not necessarily light, maybe they're social drinkers, they're going to handle alcohol, about the same way. And it's going to affect them, give or take, about the same way. With cannabis, it's a little bit different because it's all about your receptors. And like, I can't see your receptors and you cannot see my receptors. And so what works for you isn't necessarily going to work for me. And even if we are about the same height, same weight, same age, same demographic, we're not going to necessarily react to cannabis the same way. And so, I think we've started to see a lot of people start coming around to cannabis and seeing the benefits of it. When I started in the industry back in 2019, and I told people that I was working in the cannabis space, I had people who didn't want to speak to me anymore. I actually went and spoke at my own village who was looking to opt in for adult use, and the whole room was filled. And there was a whole group of people who had these opt-out T-shirts. And some of those were moms who I knew from the skating program in my town. And after that, they wouldn't have anything to do with me because I got up and spoke for cannabis. And I think the issue with cannabis is that there's so much misinformation. And so at that very village meeting, I heard this woman get up. She had a PowerPoint presentation about medical cannabis, and she was saying medical cannabis is pills and recreational cannabis is joints and vapes and edibles. And I was like, nope, not at all. Wow. Medical versus recreational cannabis is not a product designation. It's a consumer designation. So edibles can be medical and recreational. Vapes can be medical and recreational. And it really showed me at that very moment that so many people don't really understand the nuances of the cannabis space. And so, like I said, medical is really a consumer designation. And if you have a medical card, that it puts you into the medical program. Recreational is for those who don't have a medical card. And not all states have that available. And so it's really all about educating the community to make sure they understand what the differences are and making sure that they understand, how to properly engage with cannabis products. The worst thing that can happen is someone comes in, they try it out, and they have a bad experience. And so what we don't want to see is anybody have that. So a lot of the people I knew in my own neighborhood who didn't want to talk to me when I started within cannabis or who were afraid to have their kids play at my house are now asking me about how they partake in cannabis properly and responsibly. And so, there's definitely a way to break people into the industry, for lack of better terms, and help them understand how they should use it, what is responsible consumption, just like you would with alcohol, just like you would with any controlled substance. And making sure that they have a positive experience, or at least not a negative experience, that first time that they utilize. And so it's really all about education in the space.
Education. So from what I understand is that someone can buy it. They have legal right, to go buy it, maybe because they're sick, and then it's a prescription that they need to use it. or they don't need that at all. Someone that just want to take it for whatever reason, they can just buy it.
Right. So that's the difference. That's medical. You have a medical card, and you don't actually you get a prescription for the medical card, but it's different than like if you went to your doctor and they said, we're going to prescribe you, this antibiotic. So you have strep throat, they're going to give you amoxicillin. Cannabis doesn't work the same way. They give you a medical card, and what you consume is up to you. It's not like they say, okay, Nagila, you have a medical card, and we're prescribing you a medical card, and we think that you should use this edible. We're prescribing this edible for you. You don't actually prescribe the product. You just prescribe the medical card. So there's a variety of conditions that qualify you for a medical card, and it varies by state because every state operates a little bit differently. But when you think about the adult use side, which is what they consider the non-medical side, the truth is that the need states is what we call them for medical cannabis, which would be things like mood enhancement, anxiety, pain, sleep, athletic recovery, are the same need states for adult use. So there's really no difference. Everybody's really using it for a medical reason. So whether it's your physical health or your mental health, there's still medical need states, whether you're using it for adult use or not. Stress relief is still a medical need state.
Wow. I'm glad. Thank you for explaining it, because even myself, sometimes like, okay, someone can just walk into that shop and buy this and then go home, take it as much as they want to. There's no limit into it. So, but it's good to understand that it's a matter of educating in people to understand there's a limit to take so you don't hurt yourself with it. Just like alcohol, just like smoking a cigarette or just things like that.
Right. And so it's all about how you consume it. And so there are legal limits in each state for how much you can buy at a time. Now, of course, like you wouldn't want to consume everything that you could buy at one time.
Yeah.
But, like we say to people, you start slow and you go low. I mean, you don't start with 20 milligrams. You start with maybe 2 or 5. And, I tell people the first time you use it, go low dose and get into bed. Turn your TV on, take it, and, give it like an hour and a half. And if you like it, great, awesome, enjoy. If you don't like it, if it starts bothering you, if it doesn't make you feel good, just go to sleep and sleep it off. You're already in your bed. You don't have to deal with stairs. You don't have to deal with changing your clothes or taking your contacts out or brushing your teeth. You're already in bed and, you're in a safe situation.
But can it hurt you if you take too much of it, like in a way where you have to call 911 or anything like that?
No. So I would tell you there are people who call 911 because they get scared. It can make you a little paranoid if you take too much. But I would tell you that no, it won't hurt you at all. And there's a lot of products that are coming out onto the market that you can take if you have too much that can help bring you down. And so it won't actually hurt you, but, you might not feel very good.
Yeah, just like when you take a medication, like for example, antibiotics, some people might feel a little bit dizzy, they feel a little bit kind of weird, and you need to lay down because, especially if you don't like medication, because some people, their body just don't like medication at all. And I'm one of these people. My body, you say medication, my body say goodbye. So I have to lay down after I take it just to make sure that I can control my own body when it comes to medication.
Yeah, and this is the same way. And even like if you consume too much cannabis, if you consume too much alcohol, you're not going to feel good.
Yeah.
So, what's great about cannabis is that there's really no hangover like you would see with alcohol. But I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to overconsume. Everything is good in moderation. And if you're not used to it, you should start very low so that you can work yourself up. So one of the things that I see most people make the mistake of is they take an edible. Edibles have a slow onset. So you're not going to feel it, in 20 minutes, likely. It's going to take you about 45 minutes to an hour and a half.
Wow.
And so what I see people do is they try an edible for the first time and they don't feel it after 20 minutes, and then they take another one. And then they have a bad experience because then they both kick in
at the same time.
And so what I tell people is if you take the edible and in an hour and a half you don't feel anything, don't take another one. Just stop for the night, try again the next day. Because the compounding could cause you a problem. So
go ahead.
So I always say, make sure that you're very careful with how you consume.
But to listen to you talking about, it seems like it's something you are very passionate about.
Yes. As I said, I didn't realize when I joined the industry, I didn't realize the impact it would have on me. So the first week I was in the space, my boss sent me to Michigan to one of our dispensaries to kind of learn and talk to people. Because I was totally new. I hadn't, consumed that much since college. And so, I always tell people, I consumed in college and like everybody else, and I stopped to get gainful employment because my dad would have killed me if I failed the drug screen and then didn't get a job. And then I started partaking again when the medical programs came into effect. And so I went to our dispensary in Michigan and I sat there in the lobby and I listened to people come in and I listened to them talk to our reception person who would ask for their email, for their phone number, and they would be afraid to give it to them because they would be afraid that someone would, their wife would find out or their friends would find out. And I'm like, that's a really sad state of affairs. As you're trying to manage your own medical care, your own wellness, you're embarrassed. That's a horrible place to be. And in talking to the team that worked in the dispensary, I spent time with every single person. The stories they all had were incredibly impactful. And it really spoke to me as a human. And I would say the industry transformed me. I was not this person before. I was not all about, helping people live better lives. And our first social media campaign was called Wellness Your Way, Live Your Best Life. And we actually went out to our own team as we built the brand. And our essence, our brand essence, so what you want people to feel when they interact with your brand, was lead with love. And so we very much believed that we wanted all of our patients to feel loved. We wanted all of our employees to feel loved. And we believe when you feel safe, supported, and loved, you are your best self. And we actually went out to our community, our own team, and said, we would love for you to tell us your story. And we're going to make 5 people ambassadors. And we're going to put you on social media. We're going to do a video shoot. We're going to tell stories. And we had a good portion of our population send us videos. And we chose 5 people to participate. And we brought them into Chicago. And we did a whole video and photo shoot. And it was a very emotional day. I was actually really surprised hearing some of these stories that people had to say about how cannabis saved them and made their lives better. I'd never been part of anything like that before. I used to work in pasta sauce. I mean, pasta sauce is lovely, nothing against it, but it's not helping people live better lives. It's not changing the dynamics of their world. It's not saving them. And cannabis for so many people makes such a difference. The stories we heard of, a young woman who had autoimmune and was told she was going to have a colostomy bag for the rest of her life when she was a teenager. Can you imagine being told when you're like 14, 15 that you're going to have a colostomy bag for the rest of your life? You're going to have to date with this. You're going to have to go through job interviews with this. She started treating herself with cannabis, and her parents sent her to drug rehab. She's in her 20s now. She has no colostomy bag, and she's a big advocate of the space. And that's a huge change to her life. And then she wasn't the only story we heard. We heard of a woman who, hadn't been able to get out of bed, had been in a car accident, and cannabis helped her. So a woman with cerebral palsy, where cannabis helped make her movement possible. This changes people's lives.
So in another word, it can change your life as long as you're using it for the good.
Yes, as long as you're using it responsibly.
Yes. Don't overuse it.
No, but I mean, to the same thing, don't overuse anything.
You shouldn't. But you know what? Some humans, we like to, some of us like to overuse things. We like to take advantage of things, and without thinking what this can cause to our own health or to somebody else's health. So I guess at the end of the day, well, it's not because it's bad for you. It's the way you are using it. And then the reason why you're using it also play a big part of it as well. Like the stories you are sharing, these people needed it to survive, to be able to live a normal life again. And that's helped them. For me, using it for something like that is amazing because it's giving you hope again in this world where doctors couldn't give that to you.
For sure. And so some people need it for true medical reasons. There's people with cancer, and this helps them with their chemo. And it helps make sure that they can function as their best selves while they're going through something like that. That's hugely impactful. But at the end of the day, as I said, everybody is using it for medical reasons, whether, you think it's recreational. To me, recreational is just another word for stress relief, and stress relief is still a medical condition. Yes. And so relaxation is stress relief. And it's all about just using it the right way, just like anything else. And it's a natural alternative. And we've seen opioids go down because cannabis is coming up. And it's a much healthier way to manage your symptoms. And, as we said, we can't guarantee anything. We can't say you were going to cure anything or we're going to solve anything, because it all depends on your receptors and how you react to it. But that's with any medicine. Like some people can't take antibiotics. I'm being one of them because it doesn't interact with me properly. But there's other people who can take antibiotics. And so it's all about just making sure you do what's right for you.
And you know yourself better than anyone else, even more than your doctor or anyone else. You know yourself. You know how you feel after you take something. You know what's helping you, what's not helping you. So you are your best advocate at the end of the day.
Right. And, I talk to my own physician, and he's a very a progressive doctor. Like he's somebody that I am not afraid to talk to about anything. And I was having a procedure done, and he was prescribing me medications. And I was like, so do you think I could take cannabis instead? And his response to me was, I don't know. You could definitely try. He's like, in our profession, we're not taught about cannabis.
Yes.
He's like, we're not educated in this. And he's like, I actually learned about cannabis from you. And, that's, to me, a huge issue. And he was all for, letting me do what I thought was best for me, which I love. He's an amazing physician. But the fact of the matter is that we don't teach our doctors anything about cannabis, so they're not comfortable prescribing it for the most part. There's only a few that take it upon themselves to truly learn about it. And it's not taught in medical school. It's not part of the pharma. It's not part of big pharma at this point. And so they're not trained to utilize cannabis as an alternative to opioids or any other types of medications. And so, I think that is where I would love to see some change. Is I would love to see our medical schools teaching physicians about cannabis usage and how cannabis can help people and looking at the science behind it. What's so interesting about the space is it's so very much about the science.
But now, let's talk a little bit about your company itself. Okay. Can you tell us more about LKP Impact Consulting and the services you offer to your clients?
Yeah. So I started LKP Impact Consulting during the capital markets crisis in 2020. And so that was right around when COVID started. And cool. I was like, the cannabis industry was laying off like crazy. And I found myself on the brink of COVID, 10% unemployment. And so I actually fell into consulting. And I started on the consumer product side. And I found that I really loved it. It gave me a seat at the table, and it allowed me to work with different companies and learn best practices and be able to take those and help optimize their operations. And so in 2021, I decided to get really serious about consulting. So I kind of reached that point where I was like, do I continue this or do I apply for a job? Oh. And my husband actually was like, it's the same skill set. You could do resumes and interviews and thank you notes, or you could do the same thing and call it business development. And so I decided that I was going to give it a go. And so I started LKP Impact Consulting officially. And I focus on the cannabis and CPG space. So I still do both. And we're a fractional CMO firm. And so what's interesting is we've started to see fractional leadership increase in the past few years. And so what that really is, you're a small to mid-sized company. You can't afford these big salaries. So like if you were to hire a CMO is going to have a salary of $200,000 plus, most likely. Yes. Then you're going to pay benefits. Then you're going to pay bonus. Then you have equity. Then you have a negotiated severance package. So you're probably at about $500,000 right there. And then they want to hire people. Yes. And so before you even spend money on marketing, which you have to spend anyway, you've probably spent $750,000 to $1 million just on the team. That's a huge investment for a small to mid-sized business. And that's just the marketing person. You have a CFO, you have a COO, you have a CTO, a CEO. And so what small to mid-sized businesses are finding is that the way that they can get that expertise without that big price tag is by hiring fractional leaders. And so a fractional leader comes in on a part-time basis and provides their functional leadership skills to help drive that business forward. And so we're fractional CMOs. We go into small to mid-sized businesses who can't afford a full-time CMO or don't need one yet. And we always say that we can put together your entire marketing team for less than the cost of a marketing director. So you get a whole team for less than the cost of a marketing director. And then the only thing you pay above that is the cost of your ads, your marketing. So whether that be digital ads, whether that be billboards, you just pay that in addition, which you would pay anyway.
Oh, yes.
But you get the expertise of a high-level leader with their team, and you don't have that hefty price tag. And it allows you to be able to be more nimble, to flex, and really get the value from a leader without having to have them on full time and making that, that true commitment. Because, it's very easy to make a bad decision or a decision that isn't a good fit for your organization. And the price tag for that is very expensive. And so we're starting to see fractional leaders in all functional areas. So like there's fractional CFOs, and that's actually where I saw it start. Now we're seeing fractional CEOs, we're seeing fractional COOs. And so LKP Impact Consulting, we're only fractional CMO. We focus on marketing and sales strategy. We're a full team. I have 2 other fractional CMOs on my team. I have PR, I have content creation, I have creative design. And we work with mainly cannabis, but we also do some CPG as the marketing arm. And what's fantastic is we work with brands, operators, technology, and ancillary services. So we work across the space to help those businesses grow and become more successful.
Can they be anywhere in the world, or do you focus just within the United States?
They can be anywhere in the world. Most of our clients are in the US and Canada. But we are open to working internationally beyond Canada as well. And so most of my clients are in the cannabis space. I have a couple in CPG. But in cannabis, it tends to be the US and Canada, but we are starting to see other countries start to legalize. And so our anticipation is we'll start working in some of those other countries as well.
And how can they reach out to you for your services?
They can either email me at Laurie, Laurie, at lkpimpact.com, or you can go to our website, which is www.lkpimpact.com.
So now, what advice would you give to someone just starting their career in marketing and brand building?
Starting a career in marketing and brand building? Mm-hmm. I would tell them that, I hear from a lot of young people or less experienced people in the marketing space that they need to learn from a CMO. They're afraid to kind of get out on their own. I would tell them, get all the experience you can and find great mentors that will help you get there. So it's not just about your boss. It's about finding those mentors around you that can help you develop your skills so that you can be successful.
Well, thank you so much, Laurie. I appreciate the time. And also, I appreciate you taking the time to explain to people what cannabis is all about, because there's a lot of misconception out there. People don't understand it properly what it is, and they just go against it because they hear somebody else say it's bad for you. They listen to it, they're like, oh, it's bad for you, so people shouldn't do it. They just go against it. For myself, I never use it. I don't know how it works. Mm-hmm. But I try not to go against anything that I don't know about. And I was happy to have this conversation with you to have a better understanding of it myself. But also the listeners will understand what cannabis is all about and the meaning of it and the reason why you should use it and why you shouldn't use it if you don't want to. But at the end of the day, it's helping people. And then it's not the best way to just go against it without knowing the meaning of why someone is using it.
Absolutely. I think it's an amazing space. We're only in the second inning of the cannabis industry. So it's still very nascent and it's still growing. And I think we're going to see amazing innovation and change within the industry within the next 5 years. And there's so much that can be done and so many ways that people can participate in the space. You don't just have to be a licensed operator. You can be a fractional CMO. You can be another type of fractional leader. You can work, on the ancillary side of the business. It's growing, and the cannabis industry needs all kinds of companies and people out there to support it.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.